This is just a quick book placement, product placement for my books under the author name Derek Hemingway. First, we have the first installment in the Human Saga, which is my epic trilogy of novellas about a future civilization of corporate fascism that is being invaded by an alien cult. We have The Mortician's Daughter, a dark fantasy set in Mesoamerica about a sorceress who blocks out the sun to create a kingdom of darkness and evil, full of ghosts and monsters. It's fucking awesome. Uh, Part 2 of the Human Saga, and then Part 3. There's currently my first full-length novel in the works, so be on the lookout for that. That's about all. That heathen bastard! Alright, everyone, welcome back to That Heathen Bastard. And today we're going to be talking about something a little, well, this is basically my first step toward the idea of voter cores. So with that being said, welcome to the show. Remember that this is a platform for talking points and not a news show. With that being said, let's begin. Now, and in case you're wondering why I'm being so quiet, well, I'm just trying to take a different approach and not be quite so, just being a little more focused, get more attention grabbing. I'll grab your attention. Thank you. So with that being said, I wanted to espouse something I did recently, which is just a little taste of what a voter core would be doing if it existed. That is to say, this is an independent research document, which I made myself using various sources, which I fact-checked and checked against one another to make sure it was all solid. Now, this is the independent research document on possible child grooming in schools. There's a little something I put together in regards to Bill 1557. The full document will be made available on a Google Drive. I will link it below so you can see that. But to quote the document, it is now becoming a common fear on the right wing that progressive neo-Marxist activists may have become teachers and hold the intent of grooming children for premature exposure to sexuality. In other words, age-inappropriate lessons. As a kind of benefit for LGBT causes. So it is essentially something well-meaning. It is well-meaning, but it is poorly thought out. It disregards the innocence of the child. It disregards the idea of letting children be children, etc. The Oxford English Dictionary defines child grooming as the process in which an adult develops a friendship with a child, particularly through the internet, with the intention of having an illegal relationship. In response to these fears, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis proposed and passed a bill called 1557, Parental Rights in Education, misrepresented by the left and the mainstream media as the quote-unquote, don't say gay bill, which is not what it is. That is essentially a straw man. The bill itself reads in plain English, parental rights in education requires district school boards to adopt procedures that comport with certain provisions of law for notifying students' parents of specified information, requires such procedures to reinforce fundamental right of parents to make decisions regarding upbringing and control of their children. Prohibits school district from adopting procedures or student supports forms that prohibit school district personnel from notifying parent about specified information or that encourage student to withhold from parent such information. Prohibits school district personnel from discouraging or prohibiting parental notification involvement in critical decisions affecting students' mental, emotional, or physical well-being, etc., etc. That is essentially straight from the bill itself. It definitely got straw-manned by the media, probably because there are these essentially maps, they call them, minor attracted persons in the news media, possibly in the schools, affecting policy. Harmful practices on children include, of course, prepubescent gender transitioning. Cases such as James Younger, this is from the Daily Caller, a 7-year-old boy whose mother attempted to transition him to a girl, reportedly attended school as a boy Monday, meaning he's only behaving as a girl when his mother is present. When she's absent, he does not, which means it is something she is forcing on him. So such ideologies do in fact exist. Moving further on, the the document. This is the perspective of the bill's opponents as to why such an ideology exists, and has to do a lot with the reality of past and present discrimination. So, over 1 in 4 LGBT youth who come out their parents are forced to leave home. According to the opponents of the bill, they between 2040 estimated 1.6 million homeless youth in the U.S. identify as LGBT. So they're basically saying that they think it's going to be a platform for further discrimination, essentially. They don't really seem to be basing that on anything factual. It's sort of like an emotional knee jerk, possibly influenced by CNN or MSNBC, the liberal mainstream media. Nearly 9 out of 10 students experience harassment at school in the past year. So that would be obviously LGBT students. 44% of students reported being physically harassed, etc. Suicide rates for LGBT youth are estimated to be up to 4 times higher than their peers. So they think that discrimination is at an all-time high, even though it's actually statistically lower than ever. It actually used to be considerably worse. Now, obviously, this is where they also insert gender theory, modern gender theory being the idea that biological sex is a social construct and that you identify as whatever you like. That is also part of the opposing viewpoint. They say that children are not born knowing what it means to be a boy or girl. They learn it from their parents, other children, and others around them. This learning process begins early. So essentially, they're denying objective reality. And that is probably why they would have such a strong emotional knee jerk to a bill that they don't even really know what actually it says. They're asking all sorts of questions. Is my child possibly transgender? Is my child possibly gay or lesbian? You know, sort of doing away with the childhood innocence. So there is some good news, at least in England. In April 2018, the government announced new regulations for teaching relationships and sex education in England. Uh, that being said, that it's going to be a step forward in the fight for equality, at least according to them. It should be of some benefit, but this is likely going to have the gender theory ideology attached to it, obviously. Suffice to say, you get the idea that they think it's actually good, that it's better education, etc. It's all here in the document that I put together, and it's all been fact checked. You can fact check it yourself if you want, if you don't trust me. I'm perfectly fine. I don't mind being questioned. You should question me. You should question everyone you see and hear, really. So part of the problem is rooted in the far left resistance to conservative values. The far left, as well as many garden variety progressivism, often cites conservative values as the ultimate source of bigotry. They think bigotry is sourced within the right wing almost exclusively. That they claim to oppose this bigotry, so they will often throw the baby out with the bathwater, meaning they will think it's just all bad and all evil. Time and time again, many leftists display an obsession with the far right and supposed Nazism, and protecting any and all resistance to their cause, or projecting cause as a kind of far right fascism. So they think anyone even vaguely close to center, right of center, is far right to them. They're that crazy. The Irish Times has identified this as a common behavior of smearing anyone even vaguely right of center or even center as far right. So I got this whole document written up. You can see it yourself. It's about 14 pages. It's a good read. I put this together myself, and this is the first step toward the idea of voter cores becoming a reality, of a core of independent researchers educating voters prior to and then after the voting season. That way, it can't be misconstrued as voter influence or anything of that nature. So I'm taking the idea very, very seriously, as I'm sure you should as well. Because the problem is, and many royalists actually have pointed this out, that there is a problem with democracies and republics being that they're only as good or only as smart as the voters who participate. And if the voters are, well, idiots, then obviously you're going to get idiot decisions. So voter cores are sort of a cure to that idea because, quite frankly, when it comes to the royalists, the cure is worse than the disease, being that their cure is essentially absolute monarchy, which has oftentimes led to serious forms of abuse visited upon subjects and citizens. But the document itself is, if I may not toot my own horn, is very well put together, very well fact checked. It's about 14 pages, so you can probably finish that in under 10 minutes. You should spread that around as much as possible. Spread it like a disease so everyone can see the real sickness. And as for that, please hit like and subscribe from now on, because I'll have future updates similar to this. And eventually, I may even begin broadcasting a podcast of some kind when I have enough followers on social media and elsewhere. With that being said, there will be a link in the description below to my books. Please buy, download, and read them. And as always, cheers, peace.